Alice was a 25-year-old social media influencer with over 1 million followers on Instagram. She lived in a small town in the middle of nowhere, but her virtual life was bigger than she could ever imagine. One day, Alice was scrolling through her Instagram profile, checking out the latest posts from her followers. She had just finished posting a new picture of herself when she noticed something odd on her profile. A small blue button labeled Portal Access was hidden in the corner of her profile. Alice had never seen it before, but she couldn't resist the temptation. She clicked the button without hesitation. Suddenly, Alice felt a strange sensation, like she was being pulled into a different dimension. She closed her eyes, trying to fight the sensation, but it was too strong. When she opened her eyes, she found herself in a completely different place. Alice looked around, disoriented. The place was dark and eerie, with no signs of life anywhere. She couldn't believe what was happening. Was this a dream? Had she stumbled into some alternate reality? As she walked further into the darkness, Alice began to feel a sense of dread. Something was not right. She had a feeling that she was not alone. Suddenly, she heard a sound, like something was moving in the shadows. Alice turned around and saw a pair of glowing eyes staring back at her. She couldn't see what the creature was, but she knew that it was not human. Alice tried to run, but the creature was too fast. Alice stumbled and fell to the ground. She looked up and saw the creature standing over her, ready to strike. Alice knew that she had to get out of there before it was too late. With all her strength, Alice managed to push herself back up to her feet and ran as fast as she could. She didn't know where she was going, but she had to get away from the creature. Her heart raced as she ran, her breaths coming in quick gasps. Finally, after what seemed like hours, Alice saw a light in the distance. She ran towards it, hoping that it was a way out of this nightmare. When she reached the light, Alice realized that she had found her way back to the portal. With a sense of relief, Alice clicked the portal access button again and closed her eyes. She felt the same sensation as before, and when she opened her eyes, she was back in her bedroom, sitting in front of her computer. Alice couldn't believe what had just happened. Was it all a dream? Or had she stumbled upon something dangerous? She decided to investigate further, determined to find out the truth about the portal access button and where it led. Little did she know that she was about to uncover a dark secret that would change her life forever. Alice spent the next few days trying to forget about the strange incident with the portal access button. She tried to convince herself that it was just a dream or a glitch in the system, but she couldn't shake off the feeling that something was not right. Finally, Alice decided to investigate the button and find out where it led. She spent hours researching online, trying to find any information about it. But there was nothing. It was like the button didn't exist. Frustrated, Alice decided to reach out to her followers. She made a post on Instagram asking if anyone had ever seen the portal access button. To her surprise, she received hundreds of responses, all from people who had seen the button on their profiles. Alice realized that this was bigger than she thought. She decided to reach out to a friend who was a computer expert. Together, they began to dig deeper, trying to find any clues about the button's origins. After hours of searching, they found a strange website with a hidden message. It was a message from someone who claimed to have created the button. The message was cryptic, but it hinted at a dark purpose behind the button. Alice and her friend were determined to uncover the truth. They decided to take a risk and try the button again. This time, they would be prepared. Alice set up a camera to record her experience, just in case something went wrong. She clicked the button and the same sensation as before came over her. Alice found herself in the same dark place as before, but this time, she was ready. She had a flashlight, a weapon, and a plan. As she walked through the darkness, Alice noticed something strange. There were words written on the walls, in a language she had never seen before. It was like a warning telling her to turn back. But Alice was determined to find out what was on the other side of the portal. She pressed on, following the clues and trying to make sense of the strange symbols on the walls. Finally, after what seemed like hours, Alice saw a light in the distance. She ran towards it, her heart racing with excitement and fear. When she reached the light, Alice saw something that she would never forget. It was a room filled with strange objects and symbols. In the center of the room was a pedestal with something glowing on top of it. Alice approached the pedestal and saw that it was a crystal, but not just any crystal. It was a portal crystal, capable of opening doors to other dimensions. Alice couldn't believe what she was seeing. Was this what the portal access button was for? Had she stumbled upon something that was never meant to be found? As Alice reached out to touch the crystal, something happened. The room began to shake, and the portal crystal shattered into a million pieces. Alice was thrown back, and the darkness consumed her once again. When she woke up, Alice was back in her bedroom, with her friend looking over her. She realized that they had found something dangerous, something that they were not prepared to handle. But it was too late now. The damage had been done, and they had to face the consequences of their actions. Alice woke up the next morning, still reeling from the experience of the portal crystal. She couldn't believe what she had seen, and she knew that they had stumbled upon something dangerous. Alice and her friend decided to keep what they had found a secret. They couldn't risk anyone else discovering the portal access button and using it for their own purposes. But it seemed like the universe had other plans. Strange things began to happen around Alice and her friend. They would hear strange noises in the middle of the night, and their electronics would act up for no reason. Alice began to feel like they were being watched, like something was following them. She couldn't shake off the feeling that they had opened a door that should have remained closed. One night, as Alice was walking home from work, she saw something that made her blood run cold. There was a figure in the distance, watching her. It was dark, and she couldn't make out any features, but she knew it was there. Alice began to run, her heart racing with fear. But the figure kept following her, getting closer and closer. Finally, Alice saw that it was not human. It was something else, something from another dimension. The creature had come through the portal crystal unleashed by Alice's curiosity. And now it was here, in her world, wreaking havoc. Alice knew that she had to do something. She couldn't let the creature harm anyone else. She reached out to her friend, and together they came up with a plan. They would go back through the portal, find the creature, and destroy it. It was a risky plan, but they had no other choice. Alice and her friend prepared themselves, gathering weapons and supplies for their journey. They set up a camera to record their experience, just in case something went wrong. Alice clicked the portal access button, and they were transported to the same dark place as before. This time, the warning words on the walls seemed louder, like a plea for them to turn back. But Alice and her friend pressed on, determined to find the creature and put an end to its reign of terror. As they walked through the darkness, they could hear the creature's footsteps in the distance. It was getting closer. Finally, they saw it. It was a towering, grotesque monster with razor-sharp claws and a hunger for human flesh. It was a creature that should never have been unleashed. Alice and her friend fought bravely, using all their weapons and skills to defeat the monster. It was a long and grueling battle, but in the end, they emerged victorious. As they made their way back through the portal, Alice couldn't help but feel a sense of relief. They had stopped the creature, but at what cost? Alice knew that they had meddled with something that was beyond their understanding. They had unleashed a monster, and now they had to face the consequences. The journey back to their world was fraught with danger, but they finally made it back to their own dimension. They destroyed the portal access button, ensuring that no one else could make the same mistake they had. But Alice knew that the memory of their journey would haunt her forever. She had seen things that she never thought were possible, and she knew that she had unlocked a door that should have remained closed. Alice and her friend thought that destroying the portal access button would be the end of their adventure, but they were wrong. They soon realized that there were consequences to their actions, consequences that they couldn't ignore. The first sign that something was wrong was when Alice's friend started to act strangely. She would zone out in the middle of conversations, and sometimes she would say things that didn't make any sense. Alice became increasingly concerned about her friend's behavior. She tried to talk to her about what was going on, but her friend would always change the subject. Alice decided to investigate on her own. She went back to the place where they had destroyed the portal access button, hoping to find some answers. As she walked through the dark landscape, she noticed that the warning words on the walls had changed. They were now in a language that she didn't recognize, but she could sense their urgency. Finally, Alice found what she was looking for. It was a small, glowing crystal, hidden in a crevice in the rock. Alice picked up the crystal and felt a jolt of electricity run through her body. She knew then that the crystal was the source of her friend's strange behavior. Alice decided to take the crystal to a specialist who could examine it and tell her more about its properties. She found a scientist who was willing to help her, but he warned her that the crystal was dangerous and could have unforeseeable consequences. Despite the warning, Alice agreed to let the scientist examine the crystal. He ran tests on it and discovered that it was a gateway to other dimensions, just like the portal access button. The scientist also found that the crystal had a negative effect on the human brain, causing hallucinations and delusions. He warned Alice that if she continued to use the crystal, it could have long-term effects on her mental health. Alice knew that she had to destroy the crystal, but she also knew that her friend was still under its influence. She decided to confront her friend and tell her what she had discovered. Alice's friend was in denial at first, but eventually, she realized the truth. Together, they destroyed the crystal, hoping that it would be the end of their ordeal, but the damage had already been done. Alice's friend was never the same again. She suffered from bouts of paranoia and delusions, and eventually she had to be hospitalized. Alice felt guilty for what had happened to her friend. She had opened a door that should have remained closed, and now she had to live with the consequences. The memory of their adventure haunted Alice for years to come. She knew that she had played with fire and had been lucky to escape with her life, but she also knew that there were other curious people out there who might not be so lucky. Alice decided to warn others about the dangers of meddling with things they didn't understand. She wrote a book about her experience, hoping that it would serve as a cautionary tale for future generations. But despite her efforts, Alice knew that there would always be those who were willing to take risks and explore the unknown. And as long as there would always be consequences to their actions. Years had passed since Alice's ordeal with the portal access button and the glowing crystal. She had tried to move on, but the memories of what had happened continued to haunt her. One day, Alice received an unexpected message from an unknown sender. The message read, "The portal has been reactivated. Return to the place where it all began." Alice was hesitant to go back, but she couldn't ignore the message. She knew that she had to find out what was going on, even if it meant confronting her fears once again. When she arrived at the location, she was surprised to find that the warning words on the walls were back. They were in the same language as before, and Alice could sense their urgency. As she walked further into the dark landscape, Alice saw that the portal access button had been reconstructed. It was no longer a pile of rubble. It was now a fully functional portal, pulsating with an eerie energy. Alice felt a wave of fear wash over her, but she knew that she had to investigate. She stepped closer to the portal and could feel its power drawing her in. Before she knew it, Alice was transported to another dimension. The landscape was barren and desolate, and the sky was a sickly shade of green. Alice knew that she had to find a way back home, but she didn't know where to begin. She decided to explore her surroundings, hoping to find some clues. As she walked through the barren landscape, Alice noticed that the air was toxic. She could feel it burning her lungs and stinging her eyes. Alice soon realized that she wasn't alone in this dimension. There were other beings there, creatures that she couldn't even begin to describe. They were lurking in the shadows, watching her every move. Alice tried to avoid the creatures, but they seemed to be drawn to her. She could hear their low growls and their raspy breathing, and she knew that she had to keep moving. After what felt like hours of wandering, Alice finally found what she was looking for. It was a structure, a tower that rose up into the sky. Alice knew that the tower was her only chance of finding a way back home. She started climbing, hoping that she would find something useful at the top. As she climbed higher and higher, Alice could feel the creatures getting closer. She could hear their claws scraping against the stone, and she knew that she was running out of time. Finally, Alice reached the top of the tower. Alice pressed the return button, hoping that it would take her back home. She felt a surge of energy coursing through her body, and she knew that she had been successful. When Alice opened her eyes, she was back in the real world. She felt relieved to be home, but she also knew that the portal was still out there, waiting to be activated again. Alice decided that she had to destroy the portal once and for all. She contacted a team of experts who helped her to design a plan of attack. Together, they went back to the location of the portal and set explosives around it. Alice watched as the portal was destroyed, and she knew that she had finally put an end to her ordeal. As Alice walked away from the destroyed portal, she knew that she would never forget what had happened to her. But she also knew that she had learned an important lesson about the dangers of curiosity and the consequences of meddling with things beyond our understanding.